and boundaries. We're going to talk about how boundaries are important to women over 40 and actually to anyone, but especially to women over 40. We have so much that we need to do on a daily basis, and it's important for us to set healthy boundaries, not only for others, but for ourselves as well. And we're going to get to it in Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Stress Talk with Marceline. I'm Marceline, your host, and I'm glad you joined me today. It's a beautiful day outside for many of us, and I'm so happy that you decided to take 30 minutes out of your day to spend with me. This is the location and the place where we share strategic stress management and solution focused self care strategies for women over 40. I want to ask you before we get started to make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe to ML Bailey Consultants. You'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. So please make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. You also saw a QR code just a few moments ago. That is where I have that's where I have a quiz. And the quiz will help you determine if you are blessed, stressed, or burned out. I'd like for you to take that quiz. When you take that quiz, you'll unlock a myriad of supports and strategies specifically for your own need. Yes, that's right, for your specific need. So let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about the underestimated power of boundary setting for our self care and stress reduction needs. And this is something that when we talk about self care, we usually talk about things like getting our nails done. We talk about getting our hair done, our makeup on. We talk about taking a break from all of the responsibilities and the activities and things that are going on around us. When I'm talking about self care, I'm talking about solution focused self care. And what I mean by solution focused is that the self care that we provide for ourselves actually solves a concern that we have, or it prevents concerns from overwhelming us and becoming overwhelmed, as in the case of stress, right? So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making sure that the self care that we give to ourselves is comprehensive and not just taking a break that for which the outcome of that break will be short lived. We want to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves in a way that we can lower the concerns that we might face, prevent them, and we might alleviate them. So let's get started with our topic for today, the underestimated power of boundary setting for women's self-care and stress reduction. Why do I say it's underestimated? I say it's underestimated because we often do not consider boundary setting as it relates to self care. And we also don't consider it as it relates to stress reduction. But I want to share with you a few things to consider and why I believe that it's important for us to be aware and use boundaries that are helpful to us. So, how do you know if you need to practice healthier boundaries or at least establish boundaries that are healthy? I'll tell you how. You feel worried. You're constantly worrying about things and you feel overwhelmed. You're just overwhelmed by day to day life. You also feel tired. You can't seem to recharge your battery or fill up your tank with energy. You might be able to sleep, but it's not restful. And so you're tired. You also, I mentioned sleep. You either aren't getting enough sleep or you're sleeping constantly. You're sleeping a lot. Have you had that where you were just so exhausted that you fell asleep and you slept like a rock? Or you found yourself falling asleep in meetings or at work. Another thing is if you lose weight, a dramatic amount of weight, or you gain a dramatic amount of weight. We often look at if you've gained or lost 10 pounds in, a relatively short period of time, that could be related to stress, but it also could be related to feeling overwhelmed. And if you do not have healthy boundaries, you can easily become overwhelmed. Something else that you might want to consider as you are wondering if you need to establish healthier boundaries are, do you get irritated or angry very easily? Um, do you go off at the drop of a hat? We know some people who do that. They're very touchy. They're very touchy and they just go, boom. They go from 0 to 60 very quickly. Also, do you find that you've lost interest in the things that you once enjoyed? Um, do you avoid those things? You just don't want to participate because you just do not have the desire to participate. You feel sad, you're having headaches, you're achy, your body is achy, or you have other physical problems. What does this sound like? This sounds like a person who is overwhelmed with stress, doesn't it? Yeah, it is. It absolutely sounds like someone who is overwhelmed with stress. And not only someone who is overwhelmed with stress, it could also be someone who is experiencing depression and someone who might benefit from talking to someone about that. Healthy boundaries will help you to alleviate these concerns or to lower those concerns. So, this is very important. If you're having those symptoms that I mentioned, then you may want to consider looking at your boundaries. So, what will healthy boundaries provide for you? First of all, when you have healthy boundaries, you have a strong identity, strong self identity. It also prevents others from manipulating you or taking advantage of you, of your good nature. Healthy boundaries promote healthy relationships and it allows us to be assertive when we need to be, not aggressive, but assertive when we need to be. Also, having healthy boundaries is empowering because it gives us an opportunity to move towards our own personal goals, as well as it helps us to establish empathy for other people. Okay, so let's talk about what causes us to have poor boundaries. And I'm calling these vulnerabilities. When we're vulnerable, we're open to um, things. not being so well good for us, right? Um, just like an illness, this tea today, just like an illness, we're vulnerable sometimes if we don't do certain things. So we catch colds easily or viruses easily if we don't wash our hands frequently, or if we um, make ourselves put ourselves in a situation where there are others who have viruses or colds, right? So let's talk about vulnerabilities. And when I talked about vulnerabilities, or as I'm talking about vulnerabilities, I'm talking about those characteristics, the character traits, our behaviors, as well as the situations that we are in that would contribute to having poor boundaries. Okay, so first of all, when it comes to caregiving, females, females are very vulnerable. And there was a 2016 study that talked about gender differences in caregiving among families, and it focused on caregivers of people who had mental illnesses. Now, I'm not saying that all of you all have, you're a caregiver for those who have mental illnesses, and we certainly can't extrapolate these results and say that it fits the general population. But there were some things that I thought that came out of this study that were really quite interesting, and I wanted to share those things with you. First and foremost, out of the study, they found that women were more concerned about the emotional well being of others. And, in talking with women, and because I'm a woman myself, I recognize that we are concerned with other people's feelings. It is not so easy for us to just brush other people's feelings off or not consider others' feelings. We are invested in those feelings, the feelings of others, and we don't want to harm them or hurt their feelings in any way because that bothers us. Another thing that came out of the study is that women have a greater sense of responsibility, altruism, and self sacrifice when it comes to caregiving. And I know that particularly in the African American community, Black women will sacrifice themselves for their loved ones, their friends, as well as their community. We will go to bat, we will put ourselves on hold for everybody else. That is not always the healthiest way to live. And we also have to learn to set healthy boundaries. We can be available to our loved ones, to our family, to our community, to our friends without sacrificing our well being. The other thing is that women have to juggle our roles. We have multiple roles that intersect, and we have to juggle those roles as mother, wives, significant others, daughters, as well as employees, because many of us work. And all of those roles intersect, but there are also expectations that are that come with each of those roles. And so we're constantly juggling. We're constantly juggling those roles and the expectations that come with those roles. So, the one thing that we need to be aware of, we're vulnerable because we're women. And our makeup, our character traits, our behaviors, and the situations that we find ourselves in. Another vulnerability that is not just because we're women, another way in which we're vulnerable is self esteem. If someone has a poor self image or poor self esteem, this also affects their ability to establish healthy boundaries. Why? Because we fear rejection. We don't want to be rejected. If we don't want to be rejected, then we may become people pleasers, or we may do things that in order to avoid discomfort. So, having a poor self esteem or a poor image of ourselves leads to fear of rejection. And that's something that we try to prevent because we want to please other people, because we feel that if we please others, we won't be rejected and we can avoid the discomfort. The other thing that goes along with a poor self image is feeling as if our voice is not worthy to be heard. That's something that we tend to, if we don't have a positive image of ourselves, we tend to agree with others. Even though we don't agree with others, we become overly agreeable, and we tend to prioritize other people's wants and needs before ourselves. So when we're talking about poor self-esteem, we want to keep those things in mind. Another way in which we're vulnerable is that we've just not practiced. We've not practiced setting healthy boundaries. There are two reasons for this. We didn't see it practiced when we were growing up, and we didn't see it practiced as adults. We were we were exposed to people who did not set healthy boundaries and didn't explain how to do that. So we're not sure how to do it, right? We're not sure how to establish healthy boundaries. We just continue to live in the way that we saw others live, the way we saw the significant adults in our lives live. So we know that we have vulnerabilities. We're women, and whether we're female or male, we may have a poor self-image or poor self-esteem, and we've just not practiced enough. And so we have to learn how to set healthy boundaries, and we have to be able to model it for those the young people who are watching us as well. So, what are some of the boundaries that you need right now? These are those. I'm going to share them with you, and I'm going to go through this list pretty quickly. You can always review it when you watch the replay or listen to the podcast. That's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, a host of other podcasts. So these are the boundaries that you need right now. And these boundaries will help you to reduce your stress, and will also help you to take care of yourself. Self-care. Okay, number one, you want to establish boundaries that are going to help you reduce codependency characteristics, codependency traits, and to help you become self-sufficient. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be alone. We're not advocating that, but you want to be able to take care of yourself and to do those things that take care of you first, right? You want to take care of yourself so that you're healthy, particularly if you are a caregiver and you need to take care of others. You want to make sure that you are healthy. You want to have boundaries that set expectations when you're interacting with other people. Set those expectations of what is appropriate in terms of interactions with you. Set boundaries that empower and provide self-respect. Remember that low self-esteem that I talked about, that's low self-image that I talked about. You want to have established boundaries that will help you to begin to respect yourself, and in turn will raise your esteem, the esteem that you have for yourself. You also want to have boundaries that help you to make help you to feel safe, stable, and secure. This is a basic need. And when I'm talking about safe, stable, and secure, you want to feel that as it relates to mentally, physically, and emotionally. So you want to establish those boundaries that help you to feel safe, stable, and secure in all three of those areas. Next, you want boundaries that will help you to clarify your responsibilities, whether those are responsibilities at home, at work, or in your relationships. When I'm talking about relationships, I'm talking about not just romantic relationships. I'm also talking about relationships between family members. You as a mother, how you and your child relate to each other. You as a spouse, how you and your spouse relates to each other. How you relate to each other, even apart from your romance. You as a daughter, how you relate to your parents as they age, and how you relate to your coworkers, your colleagues, your your clients, the people that you serve in your position in your work. You want to establish healthy boundaries as it relates to all of those relationships. Friends, you know, those relationships between you and your friends. And then you want boundaries that will enable you to express your individual thoughts, needs, wants, as well as your feelings. You don't want to, once you have improved self esteem and improved self respect, you want to be able to voice your opinion and express those things without feeling as if you're not pleasing someone else, right? You want to be able to express yourself as an individual. So, we've talked about how it's difficult for us to establish boundaries because of our vulnerabilities. We've also talked about the boundaries we need right now. Next, I want to share the most important key to setting healthy boundaries. And the most important key to setting your healthy boundaries is to know and embrace your values as a person. Know and embrace your own personal values. And as you recall, if you're a regular listener, watcher, you will know that in January, I did a complete series on determining what you value, writing a value statement, and then in turn, writing a mission statement. And the mission statement will enable you to determine how you would act and interact with the world around you. So, going back to that, knowing your values and embracing what you value is key to setting healthy boundaries. And so, one of the ways to do that is to those revisit those podcasts, those live streams that I did about values and mission statements as well as goals. Look at that again, because what I'd like for you to do is to reflect on who you are apart from the roles that you carry. I am Marcelin. I'm Marcelin, but I'm also a wife, a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a niece, I'm a friend. I'm also an employee. I'm an employee. So there's many roles that I have. And again, they intersect, but I am also an individual. If you're wondering, this is green tea and it is very good. Um, I'm an individual as well. And so while all of my roles intersect, it's important for me to reflect on who I am apart from those. Not only that, knowing your values is important because it helps you determine how you want to be treated. It also helps you to determine how you're going to treat others. This is about doing unto others as you would have them to do unto you. So, knowing your values, knowing what is vital in your life will help you to determine how how you want to be treated as well as how you're going to treat other people. So, that's a lot of information, I know. I know. And we've talked about very quickly the underestimated power of boundary setting for women's self care and stress reduction. And I've shared with you how you need to set and practice healthy boundaries. I've shared how the vulnerabilities that we have as it relates to setting healthy boundaries. I've also talked about the boundaries that you need right now. I gave you a list of those. And I talked about the most important key to setting healthy boundaries. That most important key is knowing your values. What is vital in your life as it relates to how you will act and interact with the world around you. So that's it for today on Stress Talk Live with Marcelin. I want to remind you to take the quiz, take the quiz, take the quiz, take the quiz to unlock resources that will help you with your specific stress management need. And you'll find that quiz at this link, and you'll find other resources there as well. I also want to share with you on that link, you will find a link to subscribe to our monthly newsletter. I want to invite you to do so. We're going to be making some major advances in terms of sharing information on stress management and solution focused self care for women over 40. And I want to make sure that you get that information. That's it for now. Please make sure that you join me every Sunday at 7 p.m. Leave a comment, share your thoughts. You can watch the replay on Facebook at ML Bailey Consultants or on YouTube at ML Bailey Consultants. And that's all I have for you today. I'm Marcelin Bailey. As always, take good care.